County's highway engineer is our guest. We always enjoy visiting with Dennis. Certainly appreciate your stopping in, taking time out of your busy schedule.
Good morning, Gordy. Glad to be here.
That's fantastic. I know we've had some interesting conversations over the years about roundabouts and the like.
Yes, we have.
I promise I won't bring that up today.
Too late.
Yeah, we're here to talk a little bit about the flooding damage. And just before hitting the airwaves, you said you're actually going to scale that back a bit from your report to the county commissioners earlier this week.
Yeah, that's correct. On Tuesday, I gave a brief report to the county board estimating maybe $100,000 in damage across our entire system. That was probably based more on historical perspective of when we get this type of rain, and while we know we have some damage and we were out correcting a lot of that early. Usually what the case is, we continue to find culverts that were undermined or culverts that are compromised, and that damage assessment usually grows. That's usually the case in these situations. This time, I think, though, I think I'm going to downplay it a little bit. So we had some sites we thought were more severely damaged. Not the case, as the water has gone down and we're able to look at them a little closer. So that's good news. Less repair work for us to do, less cost to the taxpayer.
Yeah, we lucked out, in other words.
I think we did this time. My memory is 2014 was much more problematic for Rice County. Obviously this time around Waseca County really bore the brunt of it. I think Rice County, we did not get hit nearly as hard, and I don't think we got hit as hard as we did in 2014.
Yeah. Are the roadways still closed, the three that were?
No, we are fully reopened. Late yesterday, I think we took off some signage on County Road 95, Dalton Avenue. I think that's the south side of Cannon Lake, where the wave action and the lake water was just kind of lapping up over the pavement. Earlier, I believe yesterday, we were able to open up County Road 99 over by Waterville, the Cicada Lake Road. Again, we had some wave action up there. We also had those waves start to undermine the embankment of the road, kind of chew it out as you would expect. So we did haul in, not sure the quantity, but we did haul in a lot of granular material, heavy boulder-sized stuff, riprap, to protect that. And then the other major closure that we had earlier this week was on County Road 271. That's Garfield Avenue or Gary Trail, south of Shieldsville on the French Lake area. That's where we had that culvert that was undermined. We took a look at that and determined that we could just remove the entire structure, and we were going to do some drainage work there. So we were able to reopen that, I believe, yesterday as well.
So you won't even have to put in a new culvert?
Well, that's the idea right now. I think there's some challenging terrain there, and it's possible to just maybe reroute the water downstream 100 feet or a couple hundred feet to another structure that we have. So that'd be possibly a good long-term solution to that.
Yeah, well, and sort of kind of a blessing then in this case, because you wouldn't have known that otherwise.
Well, I mean, that brings up a great point. Sometimes these failures that we see from this rain event might have started the last time we had heavy rain. It's just, we don't have the resources, no agency does, to go out and look at every single structure after it's been submerged or subjected to high flow. And you do have areas where damage does occur, but you haven't seen it. So it's a cumulative effect. We've had heavy flooding in 2010. We were right back at it in 2014, and now last week adds to that. So some of those failures might be a combination of repeated heavy events kind of stressing the system.
I didn't realize this. I didn't remember this anyway. I'm getting old too, Dennis. Memory is kind of fading. But we were told earlier this week, yesterday actually, by Paul Panofsky, who's the Park and Recreation Director for the City of Faribault, that Tipitanca was flooded twice in August, in addition to this most recent heavy rain. And I didn't realize that we had that many heavy rain events.
It's just been a very wet summer. It's been great for my garden. I don't know about yours, but it's been challenging, not just on the maintenance side, but the construction side of our work efforts suffered too. We got a major road project we're waiting for more driveway.
Sage in Northwood, Iowa. Northland Buildings for quality post-spring construction. Go to the website northlandbuildings.com. Rice County Highway Engineer Dennis Luebbe is with us. How many years you been with the county now, Dennis?
15.
Been that long?
It's been 15 years. I reflect on that some days and wonder where that time went.
No kidding.
Yeah, I started in '01.
Well, you must like it around here. You wouldn't say.
I love Minnesota, and I love Rice County. It's a great county. It's an excellent county to work in and live in, as you know.
And just think about the different terrain we have right here in Rice County.
Well, that's an appealing factor to me, and I think all my staff and all the employees in the highway department, we like that variability. I grew up down in Winona, so I'm used to the bluffs and the terrain and the river systems, and we have a lot of that here, and we have a lot of beautiful ag ground, and we have just it's beautiful country.
And we have what, 350 miles of paved roads, something like that?
Very good. Very exactly. That's the number.
You're not serious. I was right.
I'm 100% serious. We have 350 miles of paved roads in the Rice County system.
And gravel roads?
We're at 82 right now. We just negotiated a transfer of a 3-mile segment of a county road, and with Wheeling Township. So Wheeling Township's going to take over ownership of that road.
Was that started by Wheeling Township or by the county?
I think that was started by myself and the county board. We were looking at our system. The total system's 428 miles now. That's a huge system. It serves a lot of different needs. I mean, from very busy Lyndale Parkway, Lyndale Avenue and Faribault, out to some of the more rural areas in the county. We provide service levels to both of those extremes. Lyndale Avenue right here in Faribault has upwards of 12,000 cars a day on it. And some of our low volume roads are pushing 50 vehicles a day. That's a great extreme. And the department's responsibility is to provide service on all of that system. And so occasionally it's appropriate, I think, to look at that and say, maybe a local agency such as a township could provide adequate service on those very low volume roads. And that's the case with Wheeling Township.
Yeah,
so,
just a 3-mile stretch.
Just a 3-mile stretch, yeah.
And that took a bit of work to get finished, I noticed.
Well, there's certainly a process you have to go through. Statutes require some procedural actions to take place at both the county board level and the town board level. So we went through those steps, and we negotiated out the cost, if you will, to give them a 3-mile segment, and some discussions, but we concluded that just this Tuesday with a board action on a road turnback.
Yeah. That's the interesting part, I thought, was that, you gave them some money to go along with the road.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you talk to officials responsible for road ownership and maintenance, honestly, most of them are probably trying to look to downgrade the size of their system. It's very expensive to maintain roads. It's very challenging. You have a lot of demands, and most agencies would probably prefer to have fewer miles on their system. Unfortunately, you just can't make the road disappear and turn back to the private driveway. So there's back and forth, and the county has been negotiating on and off and analyzing might be the better word. We've been looking at other segments of the county system, but we're also looking with MnDOT to look at some state highways in Rice County that, think about it, the state of Minnesota would have the same opinion. We have high volume highways, I-35 obviously, Trunk Highway 14, Trunk Highway 60, but some of those other low volume trunk highways, local jurisdictions such as a county, they might be able to provide adequate service for those users of that roadway.
Like 21, you're thinking?
Well, 21 is one, 246 is another one from Nerstrand up to Northfield essentially, and the County Road 9 or State Highway 99. Those are the 3 lower volume roads, state trunk highways in Rice County. And I believe the city of Faribault just orchestrated an exchange with the state of Minnesota, or they're in the process of it, is probably more accurate, on a couple streets in Faribault, also to the academies of the deaf and the academies of the blind. Those are, I believe, currently trunk highways on the state system.
Yes, they are.
But if you think about it, it really serves a local function, in my opinion, so it might be better suited for the local agencies to own that road. So I believe the city's been working with MnDOT on turnback of those 2 segments.
Although if you're the city, you probably like the fact that the state maintains it and you don't have the expense of that.
Well, that's the other side of the coin, absolutely. You know,
It is a state academy.
Yeah. So I don't know the depth and breadth of those discussions,
Right.
but I know it's been talked about. The state occasionally looks at their entire state highway system and looks at, you know, is it appropriate to make some adjustments to that? And, you know, the county's doing the same thing.
I remember back in 2013, actually I don't remember, I saw this on your website. I couldn't remember what year it was that you passed the wheelage tax and the half-cent sales tax to be earmarked for transportation. It was 2013.
Yes.
Has that gone well? I mean, did it do what you anticipated it would do?
Well, it certainly has an impact on our construction program. In fact, we're just looking at some numbers this week. The sales tax was implemented, I believe, in 2013. We started collecting the half-cent sales tax countywide, dedicated for construction of the county highway system. So revenues from 2014 began collecting again on January 1 of 2014. Those first year revenues were then utilized last year, 2015. We invested in some road projects. In fact, County Road 99 that we had to close due to high water, that was one of the roads we repaved last year, and those sales tax dollars were the reason we were able to repave it. So we're generating, I believe, about $3 million a year through the sales tax. A great contribution to the construction program for the department.
And just to give us an idea, that $3 million really doesn't go that far when we're talking about highway construction, right?
Well, it's tough to understand for some folks, and even me some days. It's amazing. That's $3 million.
Seems like a lot of money.
Well, it is a lot of money. It's a huge amount of money, obviously, but you know, with the standards that we're required to develop and provide the users, we're still averaging probably over $1 million a mile now for a reconstruction. Now we can't do reconstructions every year because they're just too expensive, so we do a lot of resurfacing, but even those projects are about $300,000 a mile. So 350 miles, paved road system, as you recall. We have about $4.5 million, maybe $5 million a year in the construction program. So we want to, when we do a project, we want to do it right because we know it'll be a long time before we come back.
It just does boggle my mind that we have not been able to come up with a road that doesn't get potholes, that doesn't have to be, redone every couple of years.
I think the reality of it is, living in a northern climate, it really takes a toll on any infrastructure, anything outside. I mean, you have highway systems down in the south that last considerably longer. They're lower cost maintenance because they don't have the freeze-thaw cycles that really hammer our road systems. It's just living in the north.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the deal. We love it here, but it's part of the deal. So, let's see. The wheelage tax, do we touch on what that raised?
No, we don't.
About $500,000 or something?
It was estimated to generate $500,000, and that the wheelage tax was implemented
Same year.
Same year, and I think started to be collected in 2014. It was estimated to bring in about $500,000 a year. I think the last time I looked at it, we were closer to 600,000. So a little bit more revenues being generated off the wheelage tax, and as folks look at their vehicle registration tab fees, they will see the $10 added to that. That's the county wheelage tax. Now, the county board was very specific on that the amount of revenue generated off the wheelage tax has been dedicated for maintenance. It does not go into the construction side of the equation of the department's expenditures, but it's dedicated for maintenance. So we're looking to use those additional dollars to, well, in this last week, we've been repairing flooded roads and gravel that's been washed off of shoulders and a few culverts that were blown out, and that's the revenue stream that's utilized to put the system back together.
It's interesting, on your website, I see there's like 7 different permits that people are required to get. For example, if you were to put in a driveway or to redo your driveway, that's one permit that's required. Utility permit on the county highway right-of-way. I mean, some of these are obvious. But I didn't realize, you know, the tie line, if you're crossing a road, you obviously need a permit to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the other things that your department needs to keep track of.
Well, yeah, and we have a great staff who tries to handle all the requests that the folks have throughout the county for improvements. You know, rural development, you need access to the highway system, so there's a driveway permit required. We want to make sure you locate that driveway in the proper, the best location along your frontage. We want good sight lines. We need to take into account drainage issues, so staff investigate that and we review that. Work in the right-of-way. There's lots of agricultural producers that want to modify tile outlets and whatnot, so we have to review that. Our goal with all of those permits is certainly just to maintain the integrity of that public right-of-way so that it can function as a highway system today and well into the future without being compromised by, you know, all the activities that might be proposed. So we spend a fair amount of time regulating and reviewing activities proposed within the right-of-way.
Wasn't it 2014 that you need to do the bank stabilization over in, what was it, County Road 12, 11?
I had a conversation this morning with the Waseca County Engineer. They had a slope failure due to the flooding, and he was asking me a few questions about our slope failure. We had a slope failure on County Road 11, Roberts Lake, on the east side of the lake, and that was thankfully that was a FEMA, well that flood, if you recall, was they were able to declare it a federal disaster, so we were able to use FEMA revenues to help us put that back together, that slope failure.
And that's been a successful project?
Yes, it has. We've monitored it. It will continue to monitor it for years to come. But from the day it opened, it's held firm and provided the level of service we want out there.
And
so
basically, you used a method that I saw in Europe when I was over there, I think.
That's right. We were talking about that in the years past. I think, and my memory's getting a little sketchy. I have to pull up the file. I think on the slope failure in 2014 on Roberts Lake, I think we drove 400 nails
basically that's
into the side of the slope. I believe they were 20 to 25 feet long.
Yeah, we're talking huge nails here.
Yeah,
like dinosaur size nails.
I forget the dimensions, but you know, the slope then was all the nail heads, if you think about it, were kind of connected and held together with some other reinforcing, so they just compress the whole side of the embankment and hold it in place.
It's kind of like a steel netting, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I think our project included that.
Yeah, that's what I saw over in Europe.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting, because obviously they've been dealing with it longer than we have here in this country.
Well, you know, throughout the world, I think the world is shrinking, as we say all the time. So all agencies are better able to gather information that might have been used in procedures, processes across the world, can come to our doorstep pretty quickly now. That's one of your favorite subjects is roundabouts.
Yeah, well, I promised I wasn't going to go there. Dennis Luebbe is Rice County's highway engineer. In case you haven't noticed, folks, I am not a big fan of roundabouts, especially when I go to Mankato or New Prague, which I think should be renamed Roundabout. New Prague. I mean, you got like 3 of them right in a row. Boom, boom, boom. And Mankato's the same way. I mean, they got them all around their city.
Well, I traveled to Mankato a couple times this summer, and I hadn't been over there, so I experienced the roundabouts on, I think
the
it's
2-lane roundabouts, too. How do you like those?
Well, I'm a transportation guy, Gordy. I love them. I think they're very efficient. They're much safer, and they keep traffic moving. So life is about change, right? So we need to adjust, and I think you're going to see more of them. I was sitting with some MnDOT folks, and the traffic people in MnDOT continue to believe strongly that roundabouts are appropriate traffic control features for roadway systems.
Because it keeps the traffic flowing.
Well, there's a lot of reasons, and you know, all of these sites are unique and individual. You can't just lump them all into the same basket, but oftentimes if there's high crash rates and high severity crashes, you know, the T-bone crash is very severe. Well, a roundabout essentially eliminates that. You can have people sideswiping each other, but you're not going to really get a T-bone accident at a roundabout. just by the virtue of
The
way it's
design.
constructed.
Yep.
So, so therefore, while maybe the number of crashes might not change a lot, but the severity goes way down. And that's a great thing for all of us. I mean, we all probably know folks who've had, auto accidents, and there's just terrible stories out there, and it's very frustrating. So that's a great safety feature. Environmentalists like Roundabouts, you're not having cars and vehicles just waiting for that red light to turn green. They're just idling away. The emissions are just polluting the atmosphere. A roundabout keeps people moving.
Yeah, that's true. I promised I wouldn't bring that up, but
Yeah.
you brought it up.
Well,
this
I
time.
know, but
I didn't bring this up. I just wanted you to know.
I agree.
We're going to talk about snow removal. I know folks don't want to talk about snow already, but it is just around the corner. I was just noticing on our weather almanac 2 days ago, on that date, over 2 inches of snow fell a few years back, a number of years back. But in any event,
Yep.
It's not abnormal to get snow in October, which is starting tomorrow. So
we've been underway, dusting off the plows, looking at the connections, and getting ready to go. We're installing the underbelly blades on some of our bigger trucks. We'll be ready, but it's kind of bittersweet. It's like, boy, just a few weeks ago it was August, I thought, and here we are getting ready for snow removal.
You go from mowing ditches, which reminds me,
wild parsnips.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that too.
We've modified our mowing program this fall to concentrate on the outside edge of the road first. And before the heavy rain came, we were just winding that up. So we've made progress there in adjusting our plan of attack really to manage the roadsides because of the interest and the need to be much more aggressive in dealing with wild parsnips and other noxious weeds, primarily thistles. So I think, in fact, I hope to get back to the office later today and send out a proposal to do some fall spraying. Now, we're running out of time because once we have the first hard frost,
yes,
you're done spraying. And I'm a little pessimistic. We may not be able to get somebody in here this fall. It's just we're running out of time. But I'm hoping to. And so we would start doing some limited spraying to knock down the wild parsnips and other noxious weeds in that first 20 feet off the edge of our roadway system. I believe next year you'll see the highway department spending more time and resources managing the roadsides at a higher level than we have.
This has been around a long time. This just happened to be a really bad year for wild parsnip, you think? The weather conditions were perfect. You mentioned
Yes.
how wet it's been.
Yeah, I think that's definitely contributed to the attention it's gotten in this part of the state this year. Yes, it's been around for a while, many years, and other counties and other agencies have, tried a variety of tactics. It's just been this year, I think, was an exceptional year for roadside vegetation growing. That's the good and the bad. So
another challenge for the highway department. But getting back to the snow removal, any information when you get out to people? Oh, I know you were not exactly happy earlier this week at the county board meeting about people driving around barricades.
Well,
which I thought was a good point. I mean, what do you think a barricade is up for, people?
Yeah, we had some run-ins with folks in the field actually driving through the barricades and coming through the work zone. I mean, that's one issue. And then, like Sheriff Dunn has repeatedly mentioned, we don't need folks to drive through barricades to check out what's on the other side of the barricade or to maybe think they can get through. Nothing really good is going to happen in those situations. So I was a little frustrated and thought I'd take the chance.
And you can be charged.
Yes, you can. It is an offense to drive through a road closed or around a road closed signage. So
I think it's like a $300 fine or something, which probably should be upped.
I don't know, but we do struggle with that occasionally, folks. I know everyone's curious and they want to just see what's out there, but it's in their own best interest. The sign and the barricade says road closed, folks. It is an inconvenience. We understand that. Our road construction projects do the best to sign the detour system so folks know how to get around the closure. In the case of a flooding event, we just simply don't have time to put up, detour signage. And usually locals know.
They should know their area, yes.
So but there's always that temptation, and I think we've been lucky, and it's not all luck, it's diligence, and it's Troy's deputies doing their job, and my men doing their job to keep people out of those dangerous areas.
Well, I'm sure that's probably the last course of action to close the road, right? You want to do everything you can to keep it open, but
Well,
if
absolutely.
conditions are such.
It just comes down to public safety. If we have a concern about public safety, we're going to close the road. I'd rather take the criticism of why did you close the road? It
Right.
wasn't that bad. Well, we're managing an entire system. We need to think long term. While it may not look bad to some person, another person might not be able to negotiate that. So we're conservative.
I did want to touch on the last moment or so of the show. You remember everybody remembers it was around at the time of the bridge collapse up in Minneapolis, and it seems to me that kind of precipitated everybody all over the state looking at their bridges. I would include here in Rice County. We have a lot of bridges here in Rice County.
We have a fair number. I'm glad I'm not the Fillmore County Engineer, the Mower County Engineer. They have 400 structures or so on their systems. In the Rice County highway system, our 428 mile, we have about 70 structures that are classified as bridges. Now the county also helps all the townships, so there's another 70 structures or so on the township system in Rice County. So we annually review about a third of those. We have done I think we've done an excellent job replacing deficient bridges in Rice County on the county and township system. I'm proud of that. If you go to our website and you pull up a bridge restriction map, I believe there's only 4, possibly 3 bridges that have load posted restrictions on them, which means there's some reduction in the capacity of the bridge. It's still safe for the public. Of those restricted bridges, I think all of them are in our construction program. We're going to get them knocked out and replaced. We're hoping for a good legislative session this year, Gordy. We need some bridge bonding money to help the county pay for replacing those structures.
Oh, that's super to hear. So I got less than 20 seconds. Hey, thanks, Dennis.